My name is Lillian. I'm 29 years old and in the final month of my first pregnancy. The feeling of excitement mixed with worry seems to linger constantly around me, like I'm standing at the threshold of something miraculous but also incredibly challenging. Sometimes, when I'm alone on the old beige sofa in our little house in the suburbs of Dallas, I gently place my hand on my belly, feel the soft kicks from my baby and whisper, "Mommy's here." Everyone says being a first-time mom is overwhelming, and I'm no exception. I've read dozens of books, followed pregnancy groups, even taken online prenatal classes every evening. I've tried to prepare as best I can, but nothing really soothes the fear that maybe I'm not strong enough to be a mother. My husband Nathan is 33 and works in finance. He always says he's busy, under a lot of pressure and needs to unwind on the weekends, so almost every Friday afternoon he drives to his parents' house about 2 hours away. No special occasion, no urgent reason, just a routine as he calls it. I've gotten used to being home alone, shuffling between the kitchen and living room carrying a belly that feels heavier every day. Nathan rarely helps me with anything around the house, not even the simplest tasks like carrying groceries or wiping the kitchen counter after dinner. One time I asked him to help clean the baby's room. He just looked at me and mumbled, "You're on maternity leave now, you've got more time than I do." It's hard to believe someone about to become a father could say something like that, but I was too drained to argue. I still remember a recent Saturday afternoon when the sun was blazing and I struggled to carry a sack of rice from the car into the house. Standing in the yard, sweat pouring down my face, I just wished someone would help, but he was off fishing with his dad, like I didn't even exist. When I texted him, all I got was a short reply, "You can handle it. You're strong." There are moments when I just sit in the quiet kitchen, surrounded by the lingering smell of food and the sound of the TV drifting from the living room, wondering, did I choose the wrong person? But then my baby shifts inside me, reminding me I'm not alone. I have this child. My only source of hope that keeps me going each day. Nathan isn't necessarily a bad person. He used to be gentle, caring, at least in the beginning, but ever since I got pregnant, everything's changed. He's become distant, irritable, and overly critical. The time I forgot to buy his favorite coffee, he looked at me and said coldly, "So what, you stay home all day just to eat and sleep?" Those words cut deep like a blade to the heart, leaving me breathless. But I didn't respond because I knew he'd blame it on pregnancy hormones. So I swallowed my anger, forced a smile, and turned away, telling myself, just a little longer. When the baby comes, things will change. I want to believe that. I truly want to believe that when he holds our child for the first time, something in him will shift, that he'll see the miracle we made together and learn to love more fully. But deep down, I know, maybe I'm clinging to a false hope. There are only 3 weeks left until my due date. While I'm preparing everything, newborn clothes, hospital bag packed and ready by the door, Nathan keeps talking about going to his parents this weekend, maybe staying a night or two. I've been quiet for too long, and this time, I'm not sure I can keep enduring it like before. That morning I woke up earlier than usual, my back aching from a sleepless night. After struggling out of bed, I slowly made my way to the kitchen to brew coffee for Nathan, even though I can't drink any myself. I set the steaming mug on the table next to the simple breakfast I pulled together with the last bit of energy I had. He walked in, phone in hand, eyes glued to the screen. "The toast's burnt. Don't you know how to use the toaster?" I bit my lip, trying to hold back the sudden wave of sadness. I'd tried 3 times. The slices kept burning. The toaster's been acting up lately, but I haven't had the chance to buy a new one. "I'm sorry, I'll make another." "Forget it," he cut me off. "I'm sure my mom's already making something great." That wasn't just criticism, it was a comparison I'd grown all too familiar with. Anytime I cooked something he didn't like, he'd mention his mom, Claire, as if she were this flawless standard no one else could ever match. "Her apple pie's always soft and sweet, yours is like rubber. Her soup smells like comfort, yours just..." I've heard these comments so many times they've become a rhythm in our marriage. But today, with my belly heavy, feet swollen, and another sleepless night from false contractions, I didn't have the patience to just nod and smile. I took a deep breath and quietly cleared the dishes, but Nathan kept going. "By the way, Mom's invited us for dinner tonight. Don't forget a gift. She still complains about that awful scarf you gave her last time." "I'm staying home to rest, the due date's close." "Oh, come on, not that excuse again. Pregnant women aren't fragile. My mom worked right up until the day she gave birth. Unlike you, just sitting around writing some nonsense blog all day. I didn't argue. I knew the more I said, the worse it would get. But inside, I was boiling. That blog I update daily is the one thing that still makes me feel like I matter. I share sunset photos from our tiny window, meals I cook, and the emotions I go through each day of pregnancy. Things my husband couldn't care less about. That afternoon, I forced myself to walk to the grocery store 2 blocks away to get a few things for dinner. Carrying heavy bags, belly dragging me down. I hoped Nathan would be home to help. But when I opened the door, he was lying on the couch, eyes on the TV, not even glancing my way. "What took you so long? I'm starving." I set the bags down, heart heavy. "You could make something simple yourself." "What did you just say?" His tone sharpened. "Don't be disrespectful. I work to keep this house running and you have the nerve to say that?" I froze. I wanted to scream that pregnancy isn't just sitting around, that every night I'm up with leg cramps, shortness of breath, and constant kicks. But I said nothing. I just turned to the kitchen, quietly reheated chicken soup, sliced some bread, and laid it out. He took a few bites, then pushed the bowl aside. "Soup's cold. Next time, do it right." After dinner, I washed the dishes in silence, the sound of music from the living room hanging in the air like a reminder. The whole house suddenly felt cold, like I was living in it alone. I leaned my forehead against the cabinet door, eyes closed, holding back tears. I used to think being pregnant meant being loved and cherished. But it feels like I'm living the opposite. To Nathan, I'm nothing more than live-in help. I don't ask for flowers or gifts, just a little care, a simple "how are you today?" or a hug when I'm tired. But even those seem out of reach. That night when I crawled into bed, Nathan was still in the living room laughing at his favorite show. I turned my back, cradling my belly like a silent vow. "I will protect you. No matter what." One weekend morning, after finishing up the baby's room and gasping for air from the effort, Nathan called out from the living room, surprisingly cheerful. "Lillian, pack your stuff. We're going to Colorado Springs with my parents next week. A little family trip before the baby comes." I froze. Next week? "Nathan, my due date's not here yet, but the doctor said I could go into labor any time." He waved it off like I was being dramatic. "You're always so negative. A few days in the mountains will be good for you and the baby. Mom says the fresh air will help." A chill ran down my spine. Less than 2 weeks to my due date. I had everything ready. Hospital bag, paperwork, doctor's schedules. And now he wants me to go on a trip? I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't want to take the risk." Nathan cut me off, more irritated. "I already told my parents. They're excited. You just need to rest in the cabin. I'll handle everything else." I stayed quiet, not because I agreed, but because I knew any objection would turn into another pointless argument. Since getting pregnant, I'd had to give up so much, and now I had to decide if I'd keep compromising. That day, I called my doctor to ask about the risk of early labor. She gently advised me to avoid long-distance travel and be prepared in case anything starts. Her words echoed in my mind, but Nathan didn't care to listen. In the end, I reluctantly folded clothes, packed my suitcase, and got ready for the trip. I wasn't comfortable with it, but I kept calm, hoping everything would be okay. On the morning of departure, the sky was gray and the wind chilly. As I stepped into the car and sat in the front seat, a strange sensation rippled through my lower belly. I looked down. A warm wetness spreading quickly across my dress. My water had broken. "Nathan, I think my water just broke. We need to get to the hospital now." He turned, frowning, like I'd just ruined his picnic. "What? Are you serious? Right now?" "This isn't a joke. I need to go to the hospital. The baby's coming." Instead of doing what I needed, Nathan got out of the car, scowling at the now wet seat. "Seriously? You soaked the leather seat? You couldn't have waited?" I stared at him, stunned. "Nathan, I need emergency help, please." He exhaled sharply, then, without hesitation, opened my door. "Get out. I can't let this car smell like that. Call a cab or something." I froze. What are you saying? I can't go by myself. I don't have time. My parents are waiting. I'm not missing this trip just because you're freaking out." And then, right in front of my shocked eyes, Nathan pulled my suitcase from the trunk, set it down by the curb and drove off, leaving me standing alone on the sidewalk as the first contraction started to tighten in my abdomen. I mustered all my strength to call for an ambulance, my hand shaking so much I nearly dropped the phone. Just then a car pulled up beside me. "Lillian?" A familiar voice called out from the rolled-down window. It was Chloe, the neighbor who lived a few houses down. She stepped out, her eyes scanning me with concern. "Your water broke. Get in the car, quick. I'll take you to the hospital." Without waiting for my reply, Chloe helped me into the car, gently fastened my seatbelt, then hit the gas. All the way to the hospital she held my hand, reassuring me while asking about my condition. I was in pain and deeply embarrassed, but overwhelmingly grateful. "Why is it me, not your husband?" she asked softly. I didn't answer, I just looked down as tears rolled down my cheeks. Once we arrived, everything happened fast. I was rushed into the ER, my heart pounding, my mind spinning with one haunting question. The man I once called my husband, does he even deserve a place in our child's life? I didn't know. But what I did know was that the moment Nathan drove away was also the moment I let go of the last illusion I had left. I woke up under the pale white light of the hospital room. The smell of antiseptic and the beeping of the monitors reminded me I was okay, or at least still alive after the nightmare. It took a few seconds for everything to come back to me. My water breaking, Nathan abandoning me on the side of the road, and Chloe, the one who brought me to safety. When I opened my eyes, Chloe was sitting next to my bed, holding a now cold paper cup of coffee. She looked up and smiled gently, like she'd been waiting for me forever. "You're awake, thank God," Chloe said, her voice trembling. I nodded as best I could, my throat dry. "My baby, how is she?" "A girl, healthy and beautiful like an angel," Chloe answered, then gently took my hand. "The doctor said everything went smoothly, both mom and baby are stable." I let out a breath of relief. Tears slid down silently, not from pain, but from the overwhelming sense of gratitude. Chloe gave my hand a light squeeze. "You don't have to say anything," she said, as if reading my mind. "I already called your parents, they're on their way." Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my emotions. My parents and I had grown distant ever since I married Nathan against their wishes, but knowing they were coming to me at my most vulnerable moment warmed something inside my heart. About an hour later, the door burst open and my parents rushed in, faces full of worry. My mom ran to hug me, crying uncontrollably. My dad, usually stern and composed, had red, glassy eyes as he looked at me lying there, still hooked up to IV lines. "I'm so sorry, Lillian," my mom sobbed. "We shouldn't have let you go through this alone." I shook my head. "No, don't say that. I chose this path." "But no one deserves to go through that alone," my dad said, his eyes turning to Chloe with unspoken gratitude. "Thank you. Truly. I just did what anyone should," Chloe replied sincerely. While my mom stayed to take care of me, my dad stepped outside to talk to the doctors. Chloe was about to leave too, but before she stepped out, she turned and said quietly, "There's something you should know. Yesterday, after I got you to the hospital, Nathan called me. A lot. But I didn't pick up." I froze. "Did he say anything?" "Just left a message. One line. Is Lillian okay?" I let out a bitter laugh that caught in my throat. "He left me on the side of the road, and that's all he asked?" Chloe looked at me, her expression serious. "You don't have to decide anything right now, but if you ever want to take action, I'll testify. I saw everything." Her words echoed in my mind like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. Deep down I knew, the moment I stepped out of that car, I also stepped out of a marriage I never should have trusted. That night I was moved to the postpartum recovery room. My mom rocked the baby to sleep while my dad sat by the window reading the paper, as if trying to hide his emotions. I turned to the small crib next to my bed. She was so tiny, sleeping soundly with her lips pursed. I rested my hand on my belly, now soft and empty, but something inside me was growing stronger, determination. When the nurse came in to check on me, she whispered gently, "Miss Chloe left her contact info in case you need anything." And a small envelope. Inside is security footage of you being brought into the hospital, in case you ever want proof. I held the envelope with trembling hands, not from fear, but because I knew this was the first step. That video might be just a few minutes long, but it was undeniable evidence of a long journey of suffering and truth. I whispered to the sleeping baby in the crib, "Sweetheart, I promise. I'll never let anyone hurt us again." And right then I knew I was about to do the one thing I used to fear, start over. But this time with my daughter in my arms, I would never have to walk alone again. About 3 days after giving birth, as I was just getting used to the baby's new routine, something unexpected happened. Chloe came to visit in the afternoon, bringing a bouquet of white daisies and a more serious look than usual. "Lillian, have you been following the news these past few days?" she asked in a quiet voice, as if afraid of worrying me. I shook my head. Since giving birth, my parents had kept my phone so I could focus on resting. I hadn't thought about social media or anything outside the hospital room. Chloe looked at me, then pulled her phone from her bag. She showed me a video clip. My heart clenched the moment I recognized the scene. It was me, heavily pregnant, wobbling on the sidewalk, amniotic fluid pooling at my feet, and Nathan shouting and driving away, leaving me behind. Even though my face was blurred, the situation was clear. A med student happened to witness everything and recorded it. The video spread fast, over 2 million views in just 48 hours. I sat there stunned. At first no one knew who you were, but someone recognized the license plate and traced the car's owner. "That's how Nathan's identity got out," Chloe continued. "We've kept your information private. All people know is that he abandoned his pregnant wife." I stared at her, my heartbeat quickening. This is really that serious?" Chloe nodded. "Very serious. Social media's blowing up. Posts analyzing his callous behavior are everywhere. People even dug up old posts from Nathan's LinkedIn, Facebook. Everything's under scrutiny." I swallowed hard. Part of me felt hurt. This was the man I once called my husband. But another part felt released. Everything I had suppressed, endured silently, was now out in the open. It didn't stop there," Chloe added. "My husband, Mark, knows, the CEO of the finance firm Nathan works at. When the video went viral, word got around the company. At first, they planned to handle it internally, but then..." I looked at her, waiting. "He was suspended, and this morning internal news confirmed his contract has been terminated. Reason: conduct severely damaging to the company's image." I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. It wasn't joy. More like a deep, quiet exhale after holding my breath for too long. "What about Nathan's parents?" I asked softly. Chloe shrugged. "They're getting dragged online too. Neighbors are coming forward saying they often heard shouting from their house. Someone even recalled Claire, Nathan's mom, insulting her daughter-in-law in front of guests. The internet isn't letting it go. People are digging up everything." I was stunned. My mom said lately people have been taking photos of Nathan's parents' house, spreading rumors. There's even a hashtag calling for a boycott of their family-owned bakery. They had to shut it down temporarily. I sat there in silence, flooded with mixed emotions. For a fleeting moment, it felt like justice had spoken, not through loud judgments but through the raw exposure of truth too clear to ignore. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel triumphant," Chloe said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I just want you to know, this time, you're not alone. No one can overlook what you've been through." I gripped her hand, moved. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "Save your strength. There's a long road ahead," Chloe said, standing up. "But I believe you're strong enough to walk it." After she left, I sat alone, watching my baby girl sleep peacefully in her crib. My eyes settled on the envelope holding the video the nurse had given me. I hadn't opened it yet, but now I knew it was time. Not for revenge, but to protect my daughter's future. What Nathan did wasn't just a moment of poor judgment. It was undeniable proof of a broken, loveless marriage. I whispered almost like a vow, "If he chose to abandon us, don't expect us to look back." I left the hospital on a cool, bright morning, holding my baby girl, my heart filled with tangled thoughts. My parents had prepared a room for us in their home in the suburbs of Fort Worth. The room was full of light, painted in soft pastel colors, with a tiny crib beside my bed. Looking at my daughter sleeping soundly, I knew I had to be stronger than ever. Not just for me, but for her. Just 3 days after we got home, Nathan started calling non-stop. Messages, phone calls, emails, all carrying the same fake remorse and deflection. Please, don't blow this out of proportion. I just panicked. Nobody's perfect. My parents are suffering because of this. You should think about the family. I didn't respond. But when Nathan started sending accusatory texts, "You're the reason I lost my job. If you hadn't made it a big deal, everything would have been fine," I knew it was time to take action. That night, I sat down to talk with my parents. My father, Michael, a retired attorney, listened quietly while my mother gently rocked her granddaughter in her arms. "You've endured enough," my dad finally said. "It's time to deal with this for good." He referred me to an old colleague, Clara Weston, a sharp and composed divorce attorney. When I brought her the evidence, recordings of Nathan yelling and cursing at me during pregnancy, along with the video of him abandoning me on the street, Clara simply nodded. "We have more than enough. Let me handle the legal part. Your job is to focus on your baby and your recovery." The divorce papers were filed the following week. I requested full custody and a reasonable child support amount based on Nathan's income before he lost his job. A few days later, Nathan called. This time his tone wasn't apologetic, it was angry. "You can't divorce me over one little mistake. You're ruining my life. What do you want? Money?" I stayed calm, hit the record button, and let Clara handle the call afterward. "He's refusing to sign," Clara told me the next day. "But that's all right, we'll petition the court for a summons if necessary." Just as expected, once Clara submitted the full case file and notified him of the legal proceedings, Nathan's attitude began to shift. He sent a long email, part apology, part denial of responsibility. "I want nothing to do with that child. If you're raising her, it's on you. I can't afford support." I stayed silent and forwarded the email to Clara. She gave a cool smile. "Even better. That kind of blatant refusal will strengthen our case." At the first mediation session, Nathan showed up disheveled, nothing like the polished man he used to be in the finance world. He didn't have a lawyer, just a few messy handwritten notes. "She's trying to ruin my name. She's not fit to be a mother," he said sharply. Clara didn't flinch. She calmly pulled out her tablet, played a recording of him yelling at me in our living room when I was 8 months pregnant, then showed the footage of me being rushed into the hospital, pale and soaked from amniotic fluid, while he walked away. The room went silent. "The one unfit for parenthood might be you, sir," Clara replied. A few days later, Nathan reluctantly agreed to sign the divorce papers. But he still refused to provide financial support. "He claims he has no income, can't pay a dime," Clara explained. "But don't worry, we're working with legal counsel to request compensation from the marital assets accumulated before the divorce." Then something unexpected happened. Nathan's former company, worried about their reputation, voluntarily submitted his financial information, including a pending bonus he had tried to hide. Clara quickly filed a motion to freeze a portion of those funds to secure child support. I didn't wish for Nathan to live in misery, but I couldn't let my child go without basic needs because the man once called father wanted to disappear from his responsibilities. The night the court approved our support request, I stepped out onto the porch with my baby in my arms, breathing in the first breeze of early summer. I looked down at the sleeping child nestled against me and whispered, "From now on, everything will be different, I promise." After the divorce became official, I thought life would go back to normal. But I was wrong. The consequences of Nathan's actions didn't stop. They snowballed, growing bigger and pulling him and his family into a downward spiral. News of Nathan's firing spread quickly through the community he once thrived in. His name became a shameful footnote, tied to the viral phrase, "the husband who abandoned his pregnant wife," shared across platforms. Even though my face never appeared in the clip, anyone close knew the story. And instead of blaming me, all the outrage turned to him. The man who used to wear tailored suits and sip wine at fancy parties, now the center of public scorn. I didn't follow all the chatter, but Chloe kept me updated. "You know, his house got a foreclosure warning," she said during a visit one crisp fall morning. "Looks like he can't make the payments anymore." I didn't say anything. I didn't feel satisfaction, only emptiness. After all, I once loved that man. "His mother had to close the bakery too," Chloe added, gently placing a hand on my shoulder as a quiet warning. People stopped coming. They whisper behind her back. A few articles dug up things she said about you, how she insulted her former daughter-in-law and taught her son to act tough. Now, it's all backfiring. I thought of Claire, the woman who once looked me up and down and said, "If a woman can't cook, don't expect to keep a husband." Now she was surrounded by the judgment of the very community she once bragged about as being model citizens. Guests who once came for pastries and tea now turned their backs like they never knew her. Texts from Nathan still came through, less frequent but persistent. Sometimes they were recycled apologies, other times complaints about how hard life had become. Then came the bitter accusations, blaming me for blowing things out of proportion. I didn't respond. I'd learned that silence can be the strongest decision. Any reply would just open a door to a relationship that had long since rotted. One day I received an unmarked package. Inside was a handwritten letter in shaky script. It was from Claire. "Lillian, I'm not writing to beg for anything, just to speak honestly. I was wrong. I was arrogant, blind to the possibility that my son could do anything wrong. What happened to my family doesn't compare to what you went through, but through this downfall, I finally understand what it feels like to be abandoned by the world. If one day you choose to forgive, not for us, but for your own peace, I hope you find that calm in your heart. Wishing you and your daughter good health. Claire McKinney." I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. No tears, no anger. I understood everything she wrote, but that didn't mean I would forget. Forgiveness and forgetting are two very different things. I would not live with bitterness, but I would not walk back down that road again either. Just a few weeks later, I heard Nathan had left the state. Rumor was he'd taken a server job in a small town scraping by. That image was a far cry from the man I met years ago, the one who talked about stocks, investments, and a brilliant future. As for me, I returned to work after maternity leave. With help from my parents and Chloe, I managed a steady routine. Baby Sophia was growing strong, full of giggles, with bright brown eyes everyone adored. One afternoon, while strolling with my daughter in the park, a middle-aged woman approached me with a warm smile. "You're Lillian, right? I follow your blog. I just wanted to say, you've inspired so many women like me. Thank you for being brave." I smiled, my heart a little lighter. I used to think life after divorce would be lonely and bleak, but as it turned out, freedom and peace were sweeter than any fairy tale marriage could have been. Our life gradually settled. The small house on the edge of the woods, north of Fort Worth where my parents had retired, became the first true home I'd known since leaving my marriage. Each morning, I woke to bird song, the smell of my mom's baking, and the soft cooing of baby Sophia in her crib. Chloe, the neighbor who saved me at my most fragile moment, remained by my side like a big sister. Every week she visited Sophia, bringing fresh fruit, homemade treats, and a kindness that touched me more than words could express. Once, I teased, "Aren't you tired of my drama? It's like you've been carrying the weight for me." Chloe just smiled, eyes gentle. "Lillian, sometimes helping someone else is also helping yourself. You don't know this, but what you've been through, it's incredible. Women like you deserve the best kind of ending." It was through those visits that I met Evan, Chloe's son. 32, a structural engineer living in Austin, he often came home on weekends to visit. The first time we met, I thought he was quiet, with eyes that held a kind of sadness, like someone who'd lived through more than he let on. But those same eyes, whenever he looked at Sophia, lit up with undeniable warmth. It started with simple greetings, then small talk over afternoon tea. Slowly, we shared more about work, wildflowers, hiking, and the disappointments of our pasts. One evening, after everyone had gone inside, I was standing on the porch rocking Sophia when Evan stepped out with 2 cups of warm ginger tea. He stood beside me in silence for a long while, then asked quietly, "Lillian, have you thought about starting over?" The question sank into my chest. Starting over. That phrase used to overwhelm me, but that night, under the amber porch light and soft autumn breeze, I didn't feel afraid. "I don't know," I whispered. "I've only just learned how to survive. I haven't had time to learn how to dream again." Evan nodded, not rushing. "Being honest with your feelings, that's already a step forward." After that night, he showed up more often. Never loud or pushy, just small things, holding Sophia when my hands were full, fixing a wobbly chair, quietly cleaning up after dinner with my parents. He didn't say much, but every gesture left a strange peace in me. One day, I saw Sophia laughing out loud as Evan lifted her into the air. She had never laughed like that before. My heart clenched, not in pain but with something soft, like hope. Chloe was the first to notice. One afternoon, as we made tea, she tilted her head playfully. "Tell me the truth. You and Evan, is there something there?" I laughed, cheeks flushed. "Can you read minds now?" "No need," she winked. "It's written all over your face. But I'm not rushing you. I just want you to know. You don't have to go backward to keep living. You can move forward." Winter came earlier than usual. Snow blanketed the rooftops, and Sophia had learned to roll over and was now trying to crawl. One night, while we were all gathered around the fireplace, Evan took me to the back porch. He held out a small wooden bracelet carved with my name and Sophia's. "I don't know where I'll fit in your journey," Evan said, looking straight into my eyes, "but if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of it." I looked at him for a long time, then gently placed my hand over his. The cold breeze slipped beneath my coat, but inside I felt warm in a way I hadn't in a long time. I don't know what the future holds, but this time I know I'm not alone. And happiness, even when it arrives late, is always worth the wait. My story isn't just about surviving a painful marriage, it's proof that women can rise from heartbreak, stronger and more deserving than ever. When I let go of someone who didn't value me, I made space for love that's real. The past can't be erased, but the choices we make today shape the future. And the greatest lesson I've learned? Being a mother doesn't mean losing yourself. It means finally living true to your heart. What do you think about Lillian's journey and the choices she made? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more touching, meaningful stories about family and life.